Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel, Cooks by Carrie. If you're new here, I'm Carrie, and for today's Foodie Friday video, I'm sharing how to make this delicious, easy, and not very time-consuming spaghetti and meatballs. This recipe is delicious and definitely something you're gonna want to know how to make. Alrighty guys, this recipe is really simple. All you're gonna need is some dried oregano, dried basil, tomato sauce. I'm using Rouse, which is my favorite, but you can use any that you have on hand. Some Parmesan cheese. Fresh is the best, but if that's not available to use, feel free to use any Parmesan cheese you have. Some ground beef. I'm using 90% lean, 10% fat. Garlic, extra virgin olive oil, and obviously a box of spaghetti for this recipe. And that is it. You're also going to want to have some salt and pepper, but that's all. So the first step is to boil your water. So in a very large pot, you can see how big mine is, you are going to fill it almost all the way up with water and turn it on to high heat. Make sure that your vent is on if you are using your stovetop. And I'm generously adding a lot of salt. And you can also add in some olive oil. And yeah, I'm going to wait for it to boil. You can see the flame. And that's all for this step. I forgot to mention that you can stir it up with a spatula if you'd like, but it's not that necessary. But you can do it if you'd like to. While that is starting to boil, or while I'm letting it boil, I am going to form the meatballs, or more like my dad is forming the meatballs. So basically what you want to do is you want to take a small amount of ground beef and just roll it up in the palms of your hands. You can make the meatballs bigger if you'd like, but my family personally prefers smaller meatballs. And like I mentioned before, some people do like to add some egg or breadcrumbs or something else to their meatballs, but personally that's just not for our family, and I don't really think you need them. They can be used for like structural support, but if you make your meatballs small like this, it's not necessary. And yeah, so I'm just going, or my dad is just going to repeat this process until all of the meat has been used to create meatballs. And here are all the meatballs at the end. There was a total of about 27 small meatballs. Alrighty guys, before I continue with this video, please subscribe, leave a thumbs up, comment down below what you'd like to see next, and share this video with a friend. I have a goal of 100 subscribers, so if you could please help me with that, that'd be greatly appreciated. Also, ring that notification bell to let me know, to let you guys know when I post a new video. And as always, please comment down below what recipes you'd like me to test out next, or share any new videos. I'm really open to all of your suggestions. Alrighty, so now it's time to cook the meatballs. In a large, I think this is a saucepan, I'm pouring in some olive oil, and I'm just going to let that heat up a little bit on about high. So yeah, just letting it heat up, and then I'm going to add in the meatballs. Alrighty, so now my oil has had a couple minutes or whatever to heat up. I'm going to go ahead and add in the meatballs. So I'm going to add all of them in, and then I'm also going to add in the garlic and salt. As always, I'm using some garlic that is found in the frozen section of my supermarket, I think, and it's like already pre-minced into cubes. I love this way of garlic because, I mean, you don't have to chop it, but of course use any garlic you have on hand. And yeah, I'm just going to cook them until they brown. Maybe this took me, I don't have exact times, but maybe, I don't know, 5 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, not super long. So yeah, and then you of course have to flip them so you know they all get coated everywhere, but you'll see that in some upcoming clips. So you just want to make sure also that you're not putting them too close together and they have room to be spread out from each other. Alrighty, so now it has been a little bit of time and it's time to kind of like move them around and flip them over. You can see they're starting to get brown in some places, but we have to have them brown everywhere, of course. And yeah, so this is kind of like a jiggle method, I guess you could say, for switching up where, or instead of like using something to flip them. Of course you can use a spatula or something, but you know, it's not completely necessary. And adding some salt in. Also, by the way, if you haven't noticed already, like I said, in the forming of the meatballs, my dad has been doing everything for this video, and I was the filmer for this one, so just so you guys know. So I know I mentioned earlier that I add the garlic in. I mean, I think you could add it in either time, but I guess it ends up that we did add the garlic in now instead of a bit earlier, but it shouldn't really matter too much. And then just taking a spatula and scraping the edges of the pan, just making sure that, or the bottoms of the pan, just making sure that none of the meatballs are getting stuck. And that's it for this step. Alrighty, so now maybe it's been, I don't have exact times, maybe 10 minutes. I'm sorry guys, I don't exactly remember. But you just want to watch them, and then when they look like this and they're brown, it's time to drain out the extra oil. We do this, or in my household we do this because, like, you don't want it to be a too greasy dish, and it makes it healthier. So just pouring out most of the grease. You can keep a little bit of it though, because some of the darker beef liquid you do want to keep in there, but this, like, oil you don't need, and you want to get as much out as you can. Now, while this recipe is actually very beginner friendly, this trick is a little bit hard. So maybe you want a friend to help you out with doing this or something like that, because the pan was really heavy and you don't want to lose any meatballs. But you can see, yeah, you can see like almost lost a meatball, but that's what you want to leave. So you can see some of that bottom stuff, you can leave that in. Just you don't want to leave everything else in. And now, there's a jar of the rouse or whatever you're using, and you're going to pour the whole jar in. I believe this was a 32-ounce jar, but I could be incorrect. But I believe it is a 32-ounce jar. And yeah, so you just want to pour it all in, and then my dad will mix it up with the meatballs. Again, a lot of people think that spaghetti meatballs is really difficult. It takes all day. It's not easy to do. Believe me, guys, you can do it. It's really easy dinner. It's really good. Maybe takes an hour and a half, but that's like a typical amount of time it takes to make dinner, and I think this is a great recipe to learn how to make. I mean, if you can make a burger, you can make this. I mean, it's just kind of rolling up the little meatballs, same as like a burger. You're just not smashing it, and then you just, if you can make a burger and you can make pasta, you can do this. Because that's basically all the skills you need. So at this point, some dried oregano and dried basil are being added. You know, there's no real measurements for this one. I know usually the recipes I test out have very strict, like, measurements, but this one's, you know, kind of like you just add in as much as you think. So, yeah. And that's all for this step. Also, turn your heat down to low at this point. Alrighty, so I know we got all the meatball stuff ready, but what happened to our pasta? Well, it's time to put the pasta in because the water does take a very long time to boil. Now, this is because the pot is huge. There's a lot of water in there. It's going to take a pretty long time. Now, you can do, if you're making this for a smaller, like, batch of people or whatever, you don't really want leftovers, you don't have to do the full box of pasta. However, my dad put in the whole box of pasta since it was, you know, we wanted enough for all of us and we want some leftovers. And you saw him there at the beginning, just put a few in at a time. That's because at first you don't want to put too many in because you don't want, like, the water to overflow. You just want to test the waters and see how the pasta is going to react. And then you can add all of it in. And you just want to stir it maybe a little bit, maybe every 3 to 5 minutes. And we cooked ours to the box's directions, maybe like 1 minute more than the al dente on the box. So yeah. Again, a little bit time consuming, but not bad overall, and this is a really easy step. Okay, guys, so basically you can see when my dad goes and stirs the pasta, it's almost done. Now, for some reason, I did not get a clip of me removing the pasta from this pot, but what you want to do is either use a strainer with your sink, pour it all out, and then coat, like, the pasta, you know, wash out with some water to make sure it doesn't stick to each other. Or what you can do is then take the spaghetti and just kind of scoop it carefully into the dish with the spaghetti meatballs. But for today's video, what my dad ended up doing is just pouring some of the pasta on a plate and then topping it with the spaghetti and meatballs. So you can do any one of these options. They're all perfectly fine. And then obviously for leftovers, we'll just mix it all together. Alrighty, so since we're almost done with this video, I know that the water's still boiling, but that's just because I was still cooking the pasta at this point. But my dad is going ahead and adding in some of that fresh Parmesan. Now, again, use whatever Parmesan you have on hand, but fresh does taste the best in my opinion. And it just adds some good quality and just goodness to the dish. So, just adding, I don't know, maybe 2 tablespoons. I don't really know how much it was. Kind of just an eyeball moment. And then mixing it up just to give it a little bit more flavor. You also want to make sure you have enough Parmesan so that if you like it, you can top your dish with it. And yeah, this is pretty much it for the meatballs and the sauce. And like you saw in that first clip, here is the final spaghetti and meatballs. It was so delicious. I honestly love this meal so much. And it's just such a good core recipe to have. Once you know how to make this, it's, game changer. Really easy dinner for a weeknight and just really delicious. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. That's it for today's Foodie Friday video. If you haven't already, please follow me on Instagram at Cooks by Carrie. I post lots of fun photos of the food I cook. And that's all for today. I'll see you on Monday for a new video. Bye guys.